20 taels for holding hands. 50 taels for a kiss. 100 taels for a night together. My father wanted Soon Ann as a son-in-law. But he said I reeked of money. He said he'd only marry a woman of virtue. So I turned around and asked the matchmaker to find me a man willing to marry into the family. The matchmaker brought Shun An's arch-rival and classmate, Chen Yinyu. His parents were dirt poor, but he was stunningly handsome. Chen Yinyu declared firmly,
"My lifelong wish is to find a good family and settle down as a live-in son-in-law."
I told him to be honest. He changed his tune.
"I'm greedy and I want to be a kept man."
The matchmaker gasped. But I just smiled. Greedy? That's good. As long as there's enough money, he'll be the most obedient husband. Better than those who want both profit and fame, and expect your gratitude and admiration, those hypocrites. I waved him over. Come here. Chen Yinyu walked over. He raised his hand and parted the bead curtain between us. Amid the clinking of beads, for the first time, I saw his face clearly in the bright light. My breath caught for a moment. He was indeed beautiful. Just like the ink orchid painting hanging in my study. Such extreme purity gave rise to a breathtaking allure. His features were striking, restrained by his plain clothes, yet still undeniable. Name your price. I was brief. He thought for a moment. He looked up at me. His clear eyes settled on my face.
20 taels for holding hands, 50 taels for a kiss, 100 taels for a night together.
I raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Chen Yinyu's expression didn't change. His tone was firm.
"Miss Jin, I dare to set this price because I know I'm worth it."
I didn't say anything. It's not that I think he's asking for too much. I think he's asking for too little. With Chen Yinyu's looks, if he were at the Spring Breeze Pavilion, 500 taels a night, people would be fighting over him. Great, I've run into someone who doesn't know the market. I look at him, the corners of my lips slowly curl up. 800 taels. You'll join the Jin household. This is the price for you. I'm buying you outright. Chen Yinyu's eyelashes flutter, waiting for me to continue. Other services are extra. I never shortchange my own people. The matchmaker beside us doesn't dare to breathe. I have only one request. Just be a quiet tool. Don't cause me trouble.
He gives a faint smile. "Miss Jin, you're straightforward. Then, let's settle the deposit first."
I have a servant bring banknotes. 400 taels as deposit. Another 400 after the job is done. Chen Yinyu looks at the stack of banknotes, and suddenly lets out a light laugh.
"Miss Jin, aren't you afraid I'll take the money and disappear?"
How could that be? I trust your character. What's 400 taels? Such a small amount. If he really runs off, I wouldn't even bother to chase him. I'd just consider it a splash in the water. Chen Yinyu looks at me, his eyes flicker, then he carefully puts away the banknotes. Ah, I sigh softly to myself. This kid really hasn't seen real mountains of gold and silver. Chen Yinyu actually has some professional integrity. That afternoon, he showed up with a half-old trunk.
He said, since he'd accepted the deposit,
he should move into the mansion.
To put my mind at ease.
I had someone prepare a room for him. I didn't bother. The trading company's affairs were numerous and messy. I worked until late at night. Just as I was about to rest, a soft knock came at the door. I pulled open the door.
20 for a handhold, 50 for a kiss, 100 for a night.
Because I agreed to this deal, my live-in husband comes to me every night. Chen Yinyu stood outside the door, his body shrouded in damp mist, his black hair half wet. He was loosely draped in a robe, the collar slightly open, candlelight softened his silhouette, like a spirit that preys on souls.
His voice was even warmer than during the day, mixed with the coolness of the night. "The money's been taken, so I should let the boss inspect the goods."
I leaned against the doorframe. What if I'm not satisfied? He gave a faint smile, his eyes flickering.
"I don't offer refunds on deposits, so I'll make sure you're satisfied. Don't worry."
I've had a long day, I'm really not in the mood. But when a beauty throws himself at me, I don't want to refuse. Besides, we don't necessarily have to do that. I stepped aside to let him in, and walked straight to the desk. A faint fragrance from him brushed past my nose, the crisp scent of orchids. I asked him to bring a small stool, and sit right across the desk. This distance wouldn't let him see the account details, and was just right so that when I looked up, I'd meet his face. The candlelight was warm yellow, flowing over his jade-like skin. His pupils were translucent in the light, like black jade soaked in clear water. He sat quietly, back straight, like a carefully carved jade statue, like a beauty under the lamplight. Indeed, a different kind of charm. I read a few lines of the accounts, then looked up at him for a moment. It was pleasing to the eyes and refreshing. A quarter of an hour later, I closed the ledger. Chen Yinyu rose at the right moment, and picked up the teapot to refill my tea. The tea was slightly hot, white steam curling up. I took it, and casually set it on the desk. Before he could withdraw his hand, I reached out and took it. Chen Yinyu's fingertips paused slightly, but he didn't pull away. I lowered my eyes and leisurely stroked his hand a couple of times. Excellent quality, well-defined knuckles. Long and strong, just a bit rough. There are calluses on the knuckles. Palms aren't smooth either. No matter. I'll just take more care to nurture them. I felt them a little longer before pulling away. I stood up. I stood up, went to the whatnot shelf and rummaged through it, found a plain pouch. Just enough to hold 20 taels, tossed it to him. Go rest. Chen Yinyu took it with his fingertips. Squeezed the pouch. A hint of a smile on his lips.
Miss, please also retire early.
He backed out. The door closed softly and steadily. I listened to his footsteps fade away. I thought, starting tomorrow, I need to keep some cash on hand. I can't always find a pouch at the last minute. The next day, I took Chen Yinyu to see my father. In the study, my father was staring at a scroll. Sighing deeply. Probably still upset about him, the perfect son-in-law who got away. I got straight to the point. Pointed at Chen Yinyu beside me. Dad, this is the son-in-law I've taken in. Chen Yinyu bowed. And gave a proper salute.
I, Chen Yinyu, pay respects to Master Jin.
His voice was clear. His demeanor was neither humble nor arrogant. My father didn't respond. He just kept sighing. I knew what he meant. The more someone lacks something, the more they want to make up for it. When my father was young, he studied hard. He took the imperial exams 7 times. Failed every time. Disheartened, he went into business. Through struggles, he built this fortune. He had money, but the thorn in his heart remained. So he generously funded scholars. He wished someone could fulfill his official dream for him. Shun An's family had some reputation. Now that they're down on their luck, it suits him. Well-read. Good-looking. More importantly, he had that aura, the noble elegance my father longed for but could never have. He gave silver and houses. He treated him like his own son. If he hadn't insisted on making Shun An a live-in son-in-law, I would have suspected that he was his illegitimate child. Too bad, now that this honored scholar has passed the exams, he looks down on us. He ran off. I didn't care what my father thought. I brought the man to meet him, which made it official. The wedding arrangements are handled by the staff. I don't need to worry about it. Chen Yinyu is sensible. He didn't bother me. Instead, he often went to my father's courtyard. At first, my father ignored him and refused to see him. Later, he actually allowed him in. Later, I passed by the study, and heard inside, my father's long-missed laughter. I paused for a moment. Jerk, not enough messing with me, now you mess with my dad?
No, that's not it. Honey, let me explain.
Entering, Dad pointed at the wall, the painting, fishing alone on the cold river, held forth. Chen Yinyu stood beside him, leaning slightly. He listened carefully. When he saw me enter, he looked up, his eyes clear and warm, and smiled. Mr. Jin, your insights are unique. I've learned a lot. He turned to my dad, his tone sincere. My dad stroked his beard, his face beaming. I glanced at Chen Yinyu. He wore a pale blue gown. The fabric was the cloud brocade I sent him. Clothes make the man. He looked even more tall and elegant.
Keep chatting. I'm off.
I turned and left. Behind me, my dad said with a laugh, Yinyu, come look at this. April 8th is good for marriage. The Jin business is big, guests pour in. With or without connections, they all came to join the fun. Chen Yinyu's side was quiet, just a few schoolmates and friends, and 2 or 3 elders, barely filling 2 tables. After the ceremony, I led him to toast and meet the family. Chen Yinyu usually wore plain blue and green, always hiding his striking looks. Today was different, his red robe blazing. Black hair, jade crown, the teardrop mole no longer hidden, lips reddened by wine, eye corners slightly upturned, revealing a hint of an allure never seen before. He followed quietly by my side, half a step behind. I led him to the next. He would softly murmur, raise his glass, and respond with poised words. All around, he made no mistakes at all, and his demeanor was pleasing to the eye.
Some elders had been watching closely. After a few drinks,
He coaxed them into smiles, did me proud. We reached the East Corridor table, the scholars my dad sponsored. They had to come, out of duty, all stood to congratulate us. They laughed and chatted, only Shun An sat still, gripping his wine glass, knuckles white, face dark as thunder. I pretended not to see. I raised my glass with a smile. Everyone, thank you for coming. A humble cup of wine. As a token of my gratitude. Everyone responded in turn. And drank it all down. Shun An still didn't move. His gaze landed on Chen Yinyu. Like ice-forged steel. Chen Yinyu seemed not to notice. He lightly lifted his sleeve. And refilled my empty cup. His movements were smooth and fluid. His eyes were downcast. As docile as a painting. Brother Shun finally looked up. His voice was calm. Won't you have a drink? Xun An curled his lips into a cold smile. Brother Chen, quite the skill. He enunciated each word clearly.
his words were forceful. You live off your wife without any shame. The whole table fell silent instantly.
I traced my fingertip along the edge of the cup. My smile never wavered. Chen Yinyu also smiled lightly. He turned his head, his breath brushing my ear. Using that voice that seemed very quiet, but actually everyone in a voice everyone heard, he asked.
Honey, is he here to cause trouble?
I replied in the same volume. Not really, just a dog barking. Chen Yinyu let out a soft, oh. He reached out to straighten the non-existent stray hair at my temple. His fingertips were cool. They brushed past my ear. He sighed. In his voice, there was just the right amount of regret.
I used to think Brother Shun was a man of noble character.
My gaze swept over Shun An's livid face. He shook his head, his tone sincere.
Now I see, he's nothing but a pathetic wretch jealous of others' happiness.
Xun An shot up. The chair scraped across the floor, making a harsh, piercing sound. He glared at us fiercely. His chest heaved violently. That look was as if he wanted to devour Chen Yinyu alive. I stepped forward half a step, just enough to shield Chen Yinyu behind me, half a body length. Without saying a word, I just looked at Shunan calmly. He held my gaze for a moment. The color drained from his face bit by bit. Finally, he threw down his wine glass hard and stormed off. The sound of the porcelain cup shattering was especially piercing in the silence. Chen Yinyu from behind gently squeezed my hand. His fingertips were slightly cool, but with a hint of reassuring pressure. I turned my hand and clasped his, held tight, and turned to face the assembled guests. He announced loudly, "Everyone, please continue." The music resumed. The banquet returned to its lively noise. There were still some business social obligations. I told him to go back to the room first. After a moment's thought, I added an instruction: "Don't take off the wedding clothes." He looked up, the corridor lights reflected in his eyes, flickering faintly. He nodded and said nothing. Half an hour later, the reception ended. I pushed open the door to warm candlelight. He was indeed sitting obediently by the bed, his hair still wet, dampening a small patch of his red robe. He had apparently washed up and then put the wedding robe back on. Quite obedient. The wedding wine was set on the table. Seeing me enter, he stood up and poured, filling 2 cups. As he handed it to me, his fingertips were damp with moisture, slightly cool.
Wife.
His voice was lower than usual, sounding relaxed after his bath. The wedding wine, I took it, arms intertwined, and drank it down. The wine was slightly spicy, sliding down my throat. He set down the cup, looked up at me, the candlelight flickering in his eyes, flickering. Yin-Yu-Chen asked softly.
What do you like, wife?
Step by step, a little at a time. He paused, his eyes on my face, and asked, or what? I raised my hand. My fingertips brushed his damp hair, caught a strand and twirled it. Yin-Yu's eyelashes fluttered, allowing me to do as I pleased. I leaned close to his ear, my breath brushing his ear. I lowered my voice, so only he could hear. I like someone who knows how to serve. A quarter of an hour later. I lay back on the wedding bed covered in red silk brocade. Breathing unevenly, Yin-Yu knelt by the bed, his dark hair slightly tousled, a few damp strands clinging to his neck. He lowered his eyes, his expression unreadable. Only his long lashes under his eyes cast a faint shadow. I let go. The hand I had unconsciously used to grab his hair slowly and deliberately straightened his slightly messy hair, thinking, I must give matchmaker Wang another big red envelope. Where did she find such a gem? Totally worth it. After a moment, I lifted my foot and gently nudged his shoulder. That's enough. He paused slightly, lifted his eyes to me. His eyes were misty, tears clear, shattered and scattered, leaving only a shimmering wetness. Chen Yinyu didn't speak. He only got up as told, undressed. I gave Chen Yinyu an advance of 1,500 taels. He clutched the stack of new banknotes. When he looked up, his eyes were deep.
Madam, is this a pre-purchase?
I lazily hummed in agreement, my fingertip tapping the table. Do a good job. In the following days, I was somewhat infatuated, feeling relaxed and content. Chen Yinyu, in this regard, his professional skills were truly outstanding. Once paid, he did his utmost to serve me perfectly. That day, I was checking accounts at the trading house, when a servant rushed in to report. Master Shun is outside requesting an audience. My hand holding the brush paused. I was stunned for a moment, only then matching this Master Shun with Shun An. I won't see him. I lowered my head and continued my numbers. But outside, arguing broke out. The door was pushed open with a bang. Chunan burst in, his face dark and stern. The servant fearfully apologized. I waved my hand and told him to leave. Shun An is sick. He likes to play the saint. In the past, he lived in a 3-courtyard mansion my father gave him, wearing my Jin family's 1,000-tail cloud silk. And he stubbornly put on airs of aloofness, saying he didn't like fame or fortune, didn't covet wealth. Now, he puts on a look of extreme distress, saying he can't bear to see me go astray. My hand holding the brush stopped in midair, an ink drop nearly staining the ledger. I looked up at him like he was a rare curiosity.
You know what kind of person Chen Yinyu is.
He furrowed his brow.
Greedy for money, utterly lacking in integrity. You taking him in as a son-in-law, isn't that just lowering yourself?
Lowering myself to what? I cut him off. My voice turned cold. His Adam's apple bobbed. In the end, he didn't say those 4 words. He just sighed deeply.
Even if you resent me for rejecting the marriage proposal, you shouldn't debase yourself like this.
I looked at him, and suddenly laughed. I slowly stood up, hands on the desk, leaning forward. Xun, what makes you think that I, Jinyu, am taking a husband just to spite you? He was stunned. And what makes you so sure that you look down on me? Even if I sink to the lowest, picking anyone at random, I'm still debasing myself. A wind blew in from outside, the ledger pages rustled. Xunen, I straightened up. I brushed off the non-existent dust from my sleeve. You think too highly of yourself. His face turned pale then green. His lips moved, but no sound came out. I chose Chen Yinyu. It's simple. I walked around the desk, and came to him. He was tall, but I stood on the steps, and he was below. He had to look up to meet my eyes. He is so much better than your kind of profit and fame-seeking, gratitude-demanding hypocrite. Much better. Xion An's face turned completely green and white. His knuckles whitened. But he couldn't utter a full rebuttal. He finally flicked his sleeve and threw out a line. Jinyu, you'll regret this sooner or later. He turned and left. I watched him coldly as he disappeared behind the screen wall. Steward. I called out. The man hurried in, bowing. He still had sweat on his forehead. Everyone who failed to stop him earlier, replace them all. My voice was steady. Also, the Soon family's mansion, repossess it. The steward looked uneasy. He hesitated, as if to speak. I glanced at him. If you think it's wrong, go talk to my father. After all, I'm the one in charge now. The steward lowered his head even more. Yes, boss. He quickly backed away. I stood where I was. Outside the window, the sun was shining, golden light poured in. What bothered me wasn't Shenan's words, but how he had disrupted the good mood I had from thinking about Chen Yinyu just a moment ago. I decided to head home. When I got home, Chen Yinyu was practicing the zither in the courtyard. A few days ago, he told me he wanted to sign up for a class, using his own private savings, to learn to play instruments. I thought learning some talents would make it easier to please me. So I hired the best teacher for him. Right now, I lay down on the lounge chair in the courtyard, waved my hand, and a servant set out a small table with snacks, and silently retreated. He asked me what I wanted to hear. I told him, anything. The sound of the zither flowed from his fingertips. I couldn't really tell what it meant, but with the spring scenery and the beautiful man, the breeze fluttered his slightly raised sleeves. It was truly a pleasing sight. I closed my eyes and listened to the music. The restlessness from earlier at the business, stirred up by Shun An, gradually calmed down. The song ended.
He stood up and walked over. Honey, are you in a bad mood?
He crouched down beside me, looking up at me. He was perceptive. I didn't open my eyes. I just hummed in response. His voice was soft and gentle.
Want to hold my hand? Today's special, $15.
I couldn't help but laugh. I opened my eyes. His eyes reflected the sky and me. My gaze wandered over his face, finally landing on his pale lips. I reached out without thinking, my fingertips gently touching his lips. What about a kiss then? Chen Yinyu's eyelashes fluttered.
Seriously, that's not on special.
His lips moved under my fingertips, warm breath brushing over them. It felt less like I was touching his lips, and more like he was kissing my fingertips. I was stunned for a moment, then withdrew my hand and teased, Mr. Chen, your business sense is getting sharper and sharper. He looked at me quietly for a moment, then suddenly said,
But I can't refuse when you're unhappy, honey.
Before the words had faded, he had already leaned in and placed on my lips a quick, light kiss. Like a dragonfly skimming water, a touch, then gone. Before I could snap back to reality, he had already pulled away, a smug grin on his face. By the time I realized, my hand had already grabbed his collar. Chen Yinyu. Pulled by me, he bent down again, our noses almost touching, breaths mingling. He blinked, his voice soft and innocent.
That just now, my lady, was a gift because you were upset, complimentary.
Oh, is that so? Meeting his gaze, so close, I'll pay extra. In the end, I kissed Chen Yinyu's lips raw. His lips were naturally pale, but now they were swollen, like they'd been smeared with rouge. That box of rouge on my vanity would suit him well. I'll try it on him another day, I thought to myself, and my mood inexplicably lifted. So much so that when Madame Sun came to see me, I could still listen with a smile. She wailed and cried in my parlor, going on about how hard it was for a widow and her child, accusing my Jean family of bullying others with our power, saying that taking back the house would kill them. I slowly stirred the tea lid. After she finished her wailing, I looked up and said, Done? She was stunned. I set down my teacup. My voice was not loud, but clear enough. What's wrong with me taking back my own house? She looked like she'd been choked. Her face turned bright red. And she started a new round of, It's so hard. While she was accusing us of being heartless, my father hurried in. Seeing this scene, his brow furrowed into a knot. Madame Soon looked like she'd seen a savior. She rushed over to grab his sleeve. My father looked at me with a troubled expression. His eyes showed disapproval, and his usual urge to keep the peace. Why make such a scene? If fate doesn't work out, there's no need. I didn't let him finish. I just waved at the butler, show the guests out. This time, the butler didn't hesitate. With two efficient maids, half persuading, half supporting, they escorted the still shouting Mrs. Go out. The parlor was finally quiet. My dad looked at me. He sighed heavily. You had to do this? Now you've offended them completely. I stood up, smoothed my skirt. I don't like him. I looked at my dad, my tone flat. Any problem? My dad was speechless. His lips moved slightly. In the end, he said nothing. He just rubbed the jade thumb ring on his thumb, looking at me with a complicated expression. I knew what he was thinking. I was his only daughter. Not because he loved me that much. Mom died young. Devoted. He never remarried. He was infertile. Doctor said low sperm count. Having kids was hard. They prayed to gods and Buddhas, drank herbs for over a decade, and finally got me just one. And a girl, no less. Better than nothing. He raised me as his son, kept me by his side. He taught me to use the abacus, read accounts, and do business. Understanding people, his greatest wish was for me to guard the family business, and then find him a son-in-law to represent represent the family. This upbringing of his became the foundation for me to take over the business. I'm grateful for that, but deep down, he favors his own. And Gu is one of his own, and a scholar too. Dad saw in him his own younger self, yearning for what he couldn't have. He funded Ngu's studies, partly from subtle superiority, and partly from compensation, and more importantly, an instinctive male bias. He felt that Ngu was one of his own, a fellow man. Even if Shun An and his family openly or secretly look down on our merchant family, my dad thinks it's fine because that's the pride a scholar should have. Understandable. He could tolerate it, he could change it, he even thought I shouldn't care about these trivial details. After all, men always need to save face. They are scholars, they are men. My dad was still standing there, his lips trembling, wanting to say something more. I could guess those words without hearing them. We've argued about this before. The worst was 2 months ago. He saw I wouldn't agree, so he went behind my back to Shunan's family to propose trying to arrange for me to marry Shunan. But what happened? That pure scholar looked down on me, covered in the stench of money, and along with that my dad got a lot of polite rejections. Word spread and there were some rumors it affected the business. At that time, he looked at me. His eyes were exactly the same as now, disappointment mixed with resentment, as if I made him lose the one who could inherit his imperial exam legacy, the imaginary male heir. Back then, I spoke to him nicely, asking him to think clearly whether he wanted to make a scene with me over a man. But now I'm just tired, I can't even be bothered to pretend. If you're so capable, go to Sunan's family, let your good son take care of you. I dropped this line and turned around to leave. Behind me I heard the sound of his furious, out-of-breath panting. As for him being a man, that pathetic pride of his, who cares about the calm after that? My dad, I guess I really shut him up with that remark. He stopped bothering me about the Shun family. Business is hectic. I'm run off my feet. Chen Yinyu is still well behaved, staying in his place, plays the zither sometimes when I rest, or when I'm staring at the accounts and rubbing my temples, hands me a cup of tea at just the right temperature. He no longer brings up those priced intimacies. Instead, sometimes, when I'm exhausted, I'll wave him over. He'll come over, sit quietly beside me, let me lean on him, or just stare at his face in a daze. I still pay him, but he's no longer like before, eager to settle up. He just takes it calmly when I give it. His expression is composed. One afternoon, I woke up from a nap and saw him sitting by the window reading. Sunlight through the curtain cast dappled light on his profile. Long lashes lowered, peaceful like a painting. I suddenly remembered what Shunan said that day. Greedy for money, without any integrity. I got up and walked over. My shadow covered the pages of his book. He looked up, his eyes questioning. I reached out and took the book from his hand. Tossed it aside. Chen Yinyu, I leaned down. Placed my hands on the armrests of his chair, trapping him in the small space. Don't you want anything? She was slightly startled, then smiled.
Darling, aren't you already giving?
Don't you want anything else besides money? He looked up at me and repeated, except for money. In his eyes, the usual flattery or docility faded, revealing a hint of earnest, clear light beneath. That was the hope. My lady, may you always be like today, with mountains of gold and silver, as stable as a mountain. His words were flattering, yet somehow fitting. I lowered my head and kissed his cool lips. Just sweet words and truth. He returned my kiss, his voice muffled between our pressed lips. A few days later, the steward reported that the Sun family had moved out of that mansion. I heard they rented a small yard in the west of the city, quite strapped for money. I just nodded. He hesitated for a moment, then said, Master, should we send some silver over there? My hand holding the brush paused, a drop of ink spreading on the account book. I know, I said flatly, turning away. At the dinner table I used the excuse of poor business to reduce my father's monthly allowance by 60%. My dad held his bowl, forgetting to put the braised pork into his mouth. Poor business? His voice rose, full of suspicion. I remained expressionless. I poked at the rice in my bowl. The trade on several waterways has been affected. Cash flow is tight. My dad opened his mouth, looked at me, then glanced over at Chen Yinyu, who was eating quietly. He swallowed his words and heaved a sigh. Believe it or not, I didn't care. A warning, but someone believed it. Chen Yinyu was rarely home. Returning in the afternoon, I often didn't see him. When asked, servants said he'd gone out with friends. I didn't suspect anything. After all, he went to my tea house. The manager would send me a list every day, what tea he ordered, what snacks he had, who he met, all written clearly. He went for 2 or 3 days in a row, returning only in the evening. That evening, after my bath, I was combing my hair in the mirror. He came out of the washroom, his hair still wet. He went to fetch his precious wooden box. Sitting on the bed, counting money carefully. That wooden box was where he kept his private savings, mainly for his silver notes and loose silver. Sometimes I had extra cash on me, I'd casually drop it in too, under the candlelight. He lowered his eyes. His fingers slowly flipped through the notes one by one, then counted the loose silver underneath. His expression was as focused as if handling something. He'd been studying the classics for a while. He looked up. His dark hair made his neck look even fairer.
Including what you usually give me.
After expenses.
About 2,000 taels left.
I replied, waiting for him to continue. He occasionally counted his savings. I was already used to it. Part of it.
I sent it back through someone for the clan elder's care.
He explained. I nodded. I knew. His parents died young. Only that distant elder in the clan had shown him some kindness. He sent silver back each month. I had allowed it. As I was thinking, he suddenly took the entire wooden box and shoved it into my hands. The box was heavy. I was stunned. I looked up. He gazed at me hesitantly. His eyes were clear and warm. His tone was unusually serious.
The business is tight on cash right now. I don't have much here, but it can help in a pinch.
He paused. His voice softened. If it's still not enough,
I can still find a few classmates from well-off families.
Borrow from some. I looked at him. I was silent for a moment. He saw I was silent. As if afraid I doubted him. He quickly added. His eyes held a desperate sincerity.
I can cut back on my expenses further. I don't need to eat or dress so well. And the music lessons, I can skip them too. That'll save some money.
Looking at him, so eager to scrimp and save and start a hard life with me right away, I was stunned for a moment. I couldn't help it, and turned my head, laughing softly. What kind of businessman is he? He not only took out his savings, but even thought of borrowing to help me. I casually made up an excuse, saying the payment for goods had just arrived, and that we didn't need his money. Chen Yinyu heard that and didn't argue. He just gave a soft but still stuffed the banknote back into my hand, saying that since it was mine, I should keep it. Over the next few days, he was clearly off. That meticulous, striving professional enthusiasm seemed to have been doused with water and drowned. He no longer brought up those transactional intimacies. After our nightly intimacy, I went to get the banknote as usual, but he gently held my hand.
Not today.
His voice was a bit hoarse. Face turned away, in the candlelight, his long lashes cast shadows under his eyes.
I raised a brow. What?
Raise the price? He shook his head.
He paused, then said, no.
Why is that? I rarely.
Such patience to get to the bottom of things. I tapped his damn palm.
Don't worry, we really don't need money.
No, it's not the same thing.
He interrupted me. I asked, what do you mean? He fell silent, turned his back to me. The outline of his shoulder blades was clear under the thin nightgown.
Honey, just pretend I occasionally want to do this for free.
That's a new one. Not after money. Then what are you after? If not money, then the heart. He's acting so strange. Could he actually have feelings for me? The moment this thought came up, I startled myself first. Then I felt it was absurd. Between him and me, it's a clean transaction. Clear and simple. That's the cleanest. If anything else gets mixed in, it would spoil it. But seeing him now, his back to me, shoulders tense, there's a stubborn, pitiful look to him. I reached out my fingertips, gently, and placed them on the back of his collar, touching his warm skin. Chen Yinyu, I said, my voice softening. He turned, and for a moment, was silent. Without a word, he turned slowly. In the candlelight, his eyes were wet, his lips a vivid red. The marks from my biting hadn't fully faded. Not after money. My fingertips traced down his neck, slid to his jaw, lifted his face, forcing him to meet my eyes. Then tell me, what are you after? His eyes flickered, 1,000 emotions swirling, but he just lowered his eyes. Gently, he took my wandering hand, and pressed it to his cheek.
To make my lady happy.
His voice was hoarse.
As long as my lady is happy, I'll do anything.
For my happiness? He said this, a change of tactics. He thinks I'd fall for that? Or is it that heart, which should only seek money, has lost its way? I didn't ask. Turned over, lay down, pulled the quilt over me, and closed my eyes. Behind me, quiet. Only our shallow breathing remained. After a while, a soft rustle beside me, he cautiously edged closer, moving very gently, as if testing the waters. Then a cool fingertip gently hooked my pinky, just a slight touch, barely any pressure, like a newborn cub, timidly reaching out its paw to touch its chosen master. I kept my eyes closed, dwelling on the thought that he likes me. It pricked my heart like a tiny splinter. Not painful, just irritating. Business is business. Cash on delivery, clean and neat. Dragging feelings in is like fine silk stained with grease, a sore sight however you look at it, and a pain to deal with feelings. Come concerns, expectations, weaknesses. If he later takes advantage of my affection, demanding more, do I give in or not? If he's moody and unpredictable, interfering with my decisions, do I put up with it or not? Just thinking about all this, the potential entanglements and struggles, gives me a headache. What a miscalculation. I should have known being together, day and night like this, skin to skin, even if it were a cat or dog, some bond would form, let alone a living person. I thought about it for 7 days, drafted it 7 or 8 times. The core message was clear. I want money, I welcome the heart-seeking, I reject him if he doesn't change his ways. Then this deal is off. That evening, I went home with a full speech prepared. Chen Yinyu was sitting by the window reading by candlelight, hearing my footsteps. He looked up. His eyes in the dim light fell on me.
Wife, you're back.
He put down the book and stood up to greet me. The cold, harsh words I had prepared suddenly got stuck in my throat. I looked at his lowered eyes, the pale skin on the back of his neck. The rehearsed cold speech died in my throat for no reason. Sit down, I said. I sat down across from him first. He sat down without a word. His gaze fell quietly on my face, with a hint of subtle inquiry. I cleared my throat. I tried to keep my tone calm. Chen Yinyu, let's talk.
Go ahead, my dear.
I looked at his clear eyes. The advice I had prepared twirled on my tongue a few times, and when it came out, it was different. Something's been off lately. His eyes flickered. He didn't respond, so I had to continue, trying to steer the conversation back on track. We agreed from the start, cash on delivery, clean and simple. You want money, I want a good time. Isn't that good enough? He was silent, just quietly watching me. I felt uncomfortable under his gaze, my voice softened, almost pleading. Better to want money than a heart. People's hearts change easily. Today they like you, tomorrow they might be tired of you. But silver won't. It's real and solid. You hold it tight, it's yours. The sea of suffering has no shore. Turn back, and you'll reach the shore. Don't go down the wrong path. I spoke from the heart, believing I had done my best. Chen Yinyu suddenly let out a soft laugh.
Are you done, my dear?
He asked me, and I nodded. He leaned forward slightly, candlelight flickering in his eyes.
You're right, my dear.
His voice was low. Wanting a heart is indeed not as safe as wanting money. My fingers unconsciously twisted the cuff. I waited for him to continue.
But if I truly fall for you...
He paused, looking into my eyes.
For you, isn't there a benefit? Serving you from now on, I'll be even more devoted.
He said no money. My heart skipped a beat. The ones who don't want money are the scariest. Chen Yinyu seemed to read my mind. The corners of his mouth curled.
I've seen too many men and women. Love is the most tormenting. I am a living example.
He laughed self-deprecatingly.
I know I shouldn't, but I still jump in.
He reached out his fingertip, gently touched the back of my hand on the table. To want your heart is to draw a prison. Willingly.
I place the rope in your hands. What are you afraid of?
I looked into his eyes. My reflection was in them. I may not want to tie you down. I said. It's not you tying me down. He corrected. I drew the prison myself.
If one day you find me an eyesore, or get tired of me, just say the word. I'll leave on my own. I won't pester you. I won't cause you any trouble. Chen Yinyu finished speaking. He lowered his eyes slightly, then lifted them again. His gaze was earnest and calm. You don't need to worry. Whether ahead is a sea of suffering or a mountain of gold, it's all my own choice. This has nothing to do with you.
Chen Yinyu's words kept turning over and over in my mind. He seemed to make sense. Drawing a prison, willingly, the rope handed to me. It sounds like I got the better deal. But this benefit, is he really asleep? I'm lying flat, listening to his steady breathing. He seems sound asleep. But what if? He's saying all the right things now. If one day his feelings make him want more, and he gets greedy, won't that be a problem? I suddenly sit up, and push him hard. Chen Yinyu grunts. He opens his eyes groggily, his eyes still heavy with sleep, looking at me with a hazy gaze. I stare back and ask directly, will you cause me trouble? He freezes for a moment, his drowsiness clearing a little. A brief silence. He turns on his side, facing me, his voice low but clear.
No. My love for you is my own business. I've just made it clear. I'll still serve you as I always have. I'll follow all the rules, every single one. I'm not some hot-headed. I'm not some kid who can't live without love. I know what's right. I'm not stupid. And I won't cause you any trouble.
His tone is calm, lazy from just waking up, but somehow carries a certainty that makes me feel at ease. I look at him in the moonlight, his eyes are clear, with no hint of evasion. The unease that was hanging in my heart, all those anxious thoughts, suddenly settles. That's more like it. I lie back down, pulling the covers over. I pat him. Go to sleep. Since the day I opened my heart, Chen Yinyu has been so clingy. When I was working, he'd pull up a small stool and sit across from me, not saying a word. Just quietly shelling pine nuts. When he'd filled a small dish, he'd push it to my side. He'd look at me with eager eyes, like a cat waiting for praise. When I got up to get something, he'd get up too. Like a shadow, he'd follow half a step behind me. I'd suddenly stop and turn around, and he'd bump right into my arms. He'd seize the chance to wrap his arms around my waist, rest his chin in the curve of my neck and nuzzle gently, his breath carrying the crisp scent of orchids. Chen Yinyu, I couldn't help pushing his shoulder. Don't you have anything to do? He shook his head, matter-of-factly.
Serving you is my top priority.
I really couldn't take it anymore, this sweet burden. So I just shooed him out. Go find your schoolmates, go enjoy some tea and music. Don't bother me here. He blinked, seeming reluctant, but seeing I was firm, he could only slowly agree. He left, looking back every few steps. Finally, my ears were at peace. About an hour later, from outside the window came familiar footsteps, very light and quick. The curtain was lifted, and Chen Yinyu walked in. His eyes and brows were full of barely contained gossip, as he leaned in close to me, eyes dazzlingly bright.
Honey, guess what? I was just at the tea house, and I heard some juicy news.
His voice was full of laughter. Without waiting for me to guess, he couldn't wait to lean in, almost pressing against my ear, and poured that hot breath along with the gossip into my ear, he said. The new postings were announced. Anli Shun placed third. He was sent to a remote post. He was always arrogant, looking down on everyone, thinking he was a genius. Surely, he'd get a good post. But he knew nothing of officialdom's ways, and never greased the wheels, even scorned to. When the appointment came, it was a barren, foul place. A remote, godforsaken magistrate post. High mountains, long roads. Miasma everywhere. It was said the previous magistrate worked himself sick. Once, he borrowed money from classmates, who were well off. He promised to repay in half a month. But he kept putting it off. When classmates heard his assignment,
So they came to demand payment. Not only did he refuse, but he put on that arrogant face.
he scolded them for caring only about money, saying they lost their scholarly integrity. He singled out one, a hot-tempered classmate, who got so angry he threw a punch. The scuffle was a mess. It was utterly disgraceful. She smirked as she listened. He dug up that old story and told it vividly. He said that when classmates had a banquet, they invited him to join. He always put on airs, disdaining such socializing. But then wrote sarcastic poems, mocking others for being sycophants and currying favor. When others stopped kissing his ass, they really distanced themselves. He then went to the teacher, looking aggrieved, saying he was too noble. I was shunned by everyone. I scoffed. I added, he was even worse when young. Back then, Seon-an loved saying, a woman's virtue lies in lack of talent. And she should be a good wife and mother, and cook in the kitchen. But then he'd see those who actually stayed home managing the household, and he'd frown again. I'd mimic his lofty and disdainful tone. I choked out, stuck by the stove all day, no talent, no virtue, dull in words, not a good match. Chen Yinyu was stunned. He rested his head on my lap, shoulders shaking, muffled laugh. This guy, he chuckled, drawling the last syllable. He's the ultimate I want it all kind of guy. Wants a woman to be obedient, and yet also talented, and to please him. Pandering to his petty superiority. It's all up to his mouth. I reached out, twirled a strand of his black hair. Dusk softened outside. Lanterns lit up under the eaves. In this warm light, we curled up, totally relaxed. I mused on his clinginess. He didn't cause trouble, but always hovered and slowed me down. I figured I'd find him something to do. Couldn't let him spend his whole life just orbiting me. The house had plenty of servants. Chores weren't for him, and business were absolutely off limits. It was unspoken between us. That day, I saw him again by the window staring blankly at a leisure book. I tapped the table. Chen Yinyu, I called him. Do you want to go back to the academy? That academy of theirs is special. The imperial exam is not mandatory. If students feel they're not ready yet, they can stay at the academy and continue studying, or leave to seek other opportunities. Chen Yinyu felt his knowledge was still shallow, so he didn't sign up for the exam. He chose to graduate. Who would have thought? The moment he took off his student robes, he was brought to me by a matchmaker, and became a live-in son-in-law of the Jin family. He lifted his eyes from the pages with a hint of confusion in his eyes.
Go back to the academy? What for?
To prepare for next year's imperial exam. Of course, I said matter-of-factly. Upon hearing this, his expression instantly froze. I was even more surprised than him. You've studied hard for over a decade. Don't you want to earn a title and bring glory to your family? Even though you married into the family, having an official rank is a whole different thing. Chen Yinyu was silent for a moment, then looked at me with a complicated expression. He said slowly, honey.
I think passing the imperial exam might not be as stable as being a kept man.
Honestly, I looked at his handsome face, serious expression, and for a moment, I was speechless. Chen Yinyu is very self-aware about being a kept man. He argued confidently, since I eat the Jin family's food, I should guard the Jin family's gate. It's my duty to take good care of my wife. How can I be half-hearted and think about running out? I wasn't. I interrupted him. Forget about me. Just tell me, do you want to take the exam? He froze. What scholar, after 10+ years of hard study, wouldn't want to pass the imperial exam and stand proudly in the court? Chen Yinyu's fingers unconsciously curled. I had carefully touched those hands before, the calluses on his knuckles left from years of holding a brush. He wanted to say something else, but I cut him off. Take the exam. I was concise. We're rich. If you fail, I'll support you. His eyelashes fluttered, but he didn't answer. I slowly added the second half. If you pass, I'll say, my husband is an official. What a face that gives me. The moment my words fell, Chen Yinyu suddenly looked up. Looking at me, the light in his eyes flickered. He suddenly reached out, gently hooked my finger. Okay. He said, I'll take the exam. I contacted the academy, paid some silver, and stuffed him back into the academy. So our days changed. In the morning, he and I rode in the carriage together, he in a blue robe, I in brocade clothes, and we parted at the academy gate. I lifted the curtain. He walked through the red gate, back straight. He didn't seem to be studying, but heading to a tough fight. At dusk, the carriage stopped at the mountain gate on time. He stepped out of the twilight, climbed into the carriage, often smelling of ink, or carrying a few scrolls. Spring passed, autumn came, winter came, summer went, a year flew by. The night before the spring exam, he tossed and turned. I couldn't sleep because of him. I kicked him. He was flipping like a pancake, then grabbed my ankle. His voice was muffled in the night.
Honey, what if I fail the exam?
I scoffed. If you don't pass, come back and keep sponging off me. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, what if I do pass?
But I can't stay in the capital. And I'm sent to some remote backwater.
I turned to face him. In the dark, we couldn't see each other's expressions. I could only feel his warm breath. I reached out and touched his tense back. I patted it gently. He relaxed a little. He leaned in, his forehead against my shoulder. If you're really sent away. I paused. I twirled a strand of his hair around my finger. Then the two of us. He'll have to taste the bitterness of longing through letters. Yinyu's breath caught. He held me tight. Don't, he murmured indistinctly.
Wherever you are, that's where I'll be.
He insisted that we couldn't be apart. He placed in the middle of the second tier. So staying in the capital was secure. Dad was grinning from ear to ear, pacing back and forth in the hall. Good, good. Yinyu, you really brought honor to our family. He had sponsored many students before. Now, a few of them are in the Ministry of Personnel, who can put in a good word. He pulled Yinyu aside and asked where he wanted to go. The 6 ministries, the Hanlin Academy, or elsewhere. The family can still pull some strings. When I looked up, his eyes were clear. It was a leisurely job with good pay and close to home.
My father let go of my hand and put it behind his back. He cleared his throat. Our family doesn't need that much effort.
In the end, we barely managed to settle. Easy work, close to home. A librarian at the Imperial Academy, sorting through old documents. And close to home. A 15-minute walk at most. As for his salary, the first time he handed it over, that day, I asked him, why are you giving me the change? Chen Yinyu shook his head.
My dear, this scheming, he said with difficulty.
Finally, I very solemnly put it away for him. That little salary. It was hard, really hard. When we settled down for the night, I instinctively reached out to touch his waist. His slender waist tensed up. He didn't flinch in the dark, but he suddenly spoke up. Touch hand, 40 taels. Kiss, 100 taels. Sleep together, 200 taels. My hand froze. I raised an eyebrow. What's this? Since he confessed his heart, these intimate things haven't been mentioned. He paid for everything: food, clothes, housing, travel. I gave him some pocket money each month, and he saved it all up. To make a round sum, send it to the clan elders. Chen Yinyu turned over, facing me. At the academy, colleagues have taken turns treating me 3 times. If I don't return the favor, it's not right. He paused, sighed, and actually sounded a bit wronged.
My dear, you've seen my salary. I'm really short of money. No.
I couldn't hold back my laughter. So he leaned in, his nose brushing against my ear, his breath warm.
So I had to go back to my old trade, to help with the household. Have mercy, my lady. Buy something from me.
Before he finished speaking, the door had already dropped. Between kisses, I gasped and pushed Chen Yinyu away. You're a court official now. He chuckled lowly, his lips lingering on my neck.
So now the price has gone up.
Chen Yinyu's whole life seemed always tied to money. As a child, he hid behind the door, listening to his parents argue over money. His mother's sobs, his father's sighs. The crisp sound of coins hitting the table. Later, he knelt in his parents' morning hall, listening to his clan argue over his future. Which family could spare an extra meal? Which family could spare a room? Everything was calculated down to the last detail. As he grew older, he worked for himself, copying books, taking on writing jobs, even running errands for others. His index fingers stained with ink dust, in exchange for a few warm copper coins. He knew exactly where he stood. His life's ambition was to marry into a good family as a live-in son-in-law, stable and worry-free. So, when he learned that the eldest Miss Jean was looking for a husband, he went. But before that, he and Jinyu had actually met 3 times. The first time was shortly after he got into the academy. The Jin family was the academy's biggest sponsor. The eldest Miss Jin would occasionally come to inspect. That afternoon, after finishing his studies, he was taking a walk alone under the eaves. At the turn, he met a group. The teacher was in front, accompanying a richly dressed young lady. She was dressed in luxurious clothes. Her eyes held a distant, privileged look. Yinyu, just in time, the teacher called to her. His smile was warm. This is Miss Jinyu, the eldest daughter of the Jin family. Miss Jean, this is Chen Yinyu, the new student at the academy. He bowed deeply. He clasped his hands in greeting. Student Chen Yinyu greets Miss Jin. His posture was proper, impeccable. Jinyu nodded slightly. Her gaze lingered on his face for a moment, as plain as water. Chen Yinyu's voice was steady, calm and undisturbed. That was all. They passed each other by. He caught a faint, delicate fragrance, crisp and precious. He stood still, listening to the footsteps fade away. The teacher was smiling at him, saying, "This boy's talent is fine, but his family is poor." The rest of the words were lost in the wind. But soon after, he received a notice from the academy. He had received a special scholarship from the Jin family, with all tuition and fees waived. The second time they met was on an unexpected rainy day. He was copying books at a bookshop for money, earning a few copper coins. On his way back, the skies suddenly changed, and a downpour came. He clutched the cloth bag of books, hurrying under the eaves of shops, trying to find a better shelter. He had just stopped, patting the water droplets from his clothes. Looking up through the heavy curtain of rain, he met a pair of eyes. Across the street, a young lady was stepping out of a silk shop, in fine silk and brocade, her figure graceful. Surrounded by attendants, the rain misted, her face was a little blurry, but her eyes were clear and calm. With a casual glance, her gaze didn't linger. She turned, helped by someone, and boarded that very spacious carriage. On the corner of the carriage, the clear Jin family crest was engraved. He withdrew his gaze, and looked at the pouring rain before him. Moments later, a servant, holding an umbrella, hurried over, and thrust an oil paper umbrella into his hand. "It's from my young lady," the servant said, and turned to leave, leaving no room for questions. He held the smooth handle, on which seemed to linger a faint, familiar scent. He looked up. The carriage had already slowly driven away. The wheels splashed through the puddles, and disappeared into the misty rain. He walked back to the academy under that umbrella, its canopy wide, sheltering him completely, not a single spot of dampness. The third time was in Shunan. That idiot had refused the marriage, causing a citywide uproar not long after. This year's batch of students at the academy graduated, and by custom, they invited several well-known merchants from the city to attend the ceremony. The Jin family was naturally on the list. The invitation had been sent months earlier.
Chen Yinyu sat in the front row, watching Jinyu walk up to the stage step by step. She stood still on stage, her gaze calmly swept across the audience, the students of Qingshan, and gave a slight nod.
"I was invited here today to meet all of you. You are the pillars of our kingdom. It brings me great comfort to see the Jin family business. If there's an opportunity in the future, I would like to build a future with all you talented people." With that, she said no more.
The academy head took over the conversation. Below the stage, Chen Yinyu unconsciously fidgeted with the edge of a book page, watching her maintain her composure as if the whole fiasco with Sunan had never happened. After all, she was the eldest daughter of the Jin family. She's seen it all.
How could I,
because of a few bitter words from a poor scholar, lose her dignity? He shifted his gaze slightly to Sunan sitting on the other side of the front row. Shunan's back was ramrod straight, chin lifted slightly. Still with that aloof and arrogant look, but in this context, it seemed especially ridiculous. In his mind, Chen Yinyu sneered. After all, normal people are still the majority in this world. Chunan's behavior, in the eyes of those who see clearly, is no different from being mentally ill. He wants to rely on the Jin family's money to study and build his career, and yet complains that their money taints his integrity. Wanting it all. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. He shifted his gaze back to Jinyu on stage. Thinking about latching onto her, this thought flashed through his mind.
He was taken aback for a moment. Then he chuckled and shook his head. The Jin family's threshold is high. How could he, with nothing to his name, ever measure up? He lowered his eyes, staring at himself. The faded blue sleeve. Who would have thought, within 2 days, the news that the Jin family was seeking a live-in son-in-law spread like wildfire throughout the city. Yin Chen, facing a half-withered orchid outside the window, lost in thought, he heard Wang Po's chatter. His heart suddenly leaped. He slowly turned his head. The sunlight outside the window, just then, fell into his slightly widened pupils. What a coincidence. At first, Yin Chen truly only cared about money. When he set what he considered a high price, he had it all figured out. For a family like the Jins to take in a live-in son-in-law, just wanted peace for now. It wouldn't last. He needed to save money while he was still in favor, and learn some skills to support himself, in case he was thrown out later, and left with nothing again. So he said he wanted to learn the Gukin. It wasn't entirely an excuse. One more skill. Even if he left the Jins one day, he could teach at a Qin school, or give lessons to wealthy children. He could always make a living. He regarded this as a business deal. He calculated it clearly. Jinyu was too different. He had seen his swift red brush during account audits, a circle, and determined the fate of thousands of taels. He had also seen his sharpness with difficult merchants, a few words that made them sweat coldly. But mostly, what he saw was the Jinyu that others couldn't see. She would, after closing a big deal, arch her brows like a cat that got the cream. She'd give him a crystal candy, she'd be exhausted, and flop on the desk, no grace, hair mussed, muttering the sheet made her dizzy, and didn't mind if he saw. She'd just lazily glare at him, that look had no power, like a feather brushing against his heart. She was like a magnet, unconsciously drawing his gaze. At first, it was appreciation for the boss's boldness and generosity, but later, his gaze held something more, something even he hadn't noticed. He would notice which pastry she favored, when she usually rested, and what troubled her when she frowned. These subtle observations had long gone beyond professional boundaries. Until she said her family was having cash flow problems, Chen Yinyu truly believed her. He had never seen a mountain of gold and silver collapse, but he had seen families go under. Anything could happen overnight. Those days, he gathered with a few friends, and analyzed gravely. One said he'd heard shipping was unstable lately. Several shipments had been delayed. The Jin family business was big, impact must be huge. Another said a tall tree catches the wind, maybe someone was jealous, and secretly tripped them up. The more they talked, the more they thought the Jin family was in trouble. If it were the old Chen Yinyu, finding out the boss might be going under, he'd be thinking about a backup plan by now. At least hold tight to his money. That was his foundation for survival. But after turning it over a few times, it finally settled on the fact they had exchanged vows, the titles were set, the deal was done. It wasn't false, but the word, husband and wife was real. He hadn't seen many loving couples. His parents argued over money every day. The clan was full of unhappy couples. Birds in the same forest, when trouble comes, they fly apart. He'd seen plenty of that. But he didn't want to fly. Not only didn't he want to fly, he also wanted to take the little savings he had and pour it all out. Anything to help, even a little. Someone wanted to ask what he planned to do, but when they turned their head and saw him, that look in his eyes, staring straight ahead, their hearts skipped a beat. Oh no, he's gone down. Someone ventured to speak.
Inyu, you're not thinking.
Chen Yinyu snapped back to reality. His tone was eerily calm.
We've exchanged vows.
Someone nearly choked.
Wait, who was it that said, payment in full, goods delivered? This son-in-law status isn't real, right?
Chen Yinyu looked up. His gaze swept over them, clear and cold.
Why can't it be real? The marriage, the contract is fake, the ceremony was fake.
He paused.
Word by word, we are husband and wife. A legal and legitimate husband and wife. Once those words were out, the whole room fell silent. Who here doesn't know?
What Inyu was like back then.
He was the love guru for classmates, secretly charging fees.
He analyzed others' love lives with authority, advising breakups or makeups.
All about the money.
When it comes to yourself, you're so easy to manipulate. It's heartbreaking. Yinyu, wake up. That's the Jin family. If it really comes to that, your little money won't even make a ripple.
Won't even hear a splash. Yinyu, however, found theoretical support, and became more certain. Ordinary couples, don't they also share the good and the bad? Now he may be having a hard time, as his wife, I should do my part, isn't that my duty?
Someone tries to reason with you.
Even if it's about feelings.
If you empty your pockets to help him now, he might be grateful, but if he gets through it, later he'll remember you saw him at his lowest. Can he really not hold a grudge? A wealthy family cares most about face. Yinyu, he's not that kind of person.
How do you know? I'm with him day and night, I know him. He also said, moreover, helping in times of need shows the deepest loyalty. If he can make a comeback, he will surely remember my kindness. Guru descends to earth. 1 against 5, the core idea is just one, we are husband and wife. I have to take care of him. No matter how many people bombard me, he remains unshaken.
In the past, you enlightened countless foolish lovers as the top guru, but now you've fallen headfirst into your own love trap.
Can't even be saved.
He carried that burning heart, eager to help with the family's finances, back to the estate, but saw the mansion still orderly, with no sign of an impending storm. He felt a bit relieved, but also puzzled. Until evening, he mustered the courage to take out the wooden box and say the long-prepared words about getting through the crisis together. Jinyu was stunned. Then she turned her head and laughed softly. He watched her shoulders shake with laughter, and belatedly realized that the Jin family's foundation was deep and solid. His imagination of a storm-tossed life was truly laughable. There was embarrassment, like a poor boy with a few copper coins, saying he'd help the emperor build a palace. There was also disappointment, light as a feather brushing his heart. This life of his, he would probably never catch up with her. He couldn't earn mountains of gold and silver, and she didn't need him to share hardships. Those secret, even unexamined, delusions of standing beside her, had just surfaced and were extinguished. But that disappointment only lasted a moment. What flooded over him was relief, washing away that tiny bitterness, until it was scattered. Luckily, he thought, luckily, she was strong, invincible. Luckily, she didn't have to experience the storms he had seen in his childhood, didn't have to frown over a few coins, didn't have to bear scorn due to hard times. He would rather be forever just a dispensable ornament, a pastime she bought with money, than see her fall into the dust and be touched by any sorrow. She deserved to be forever radiant. Mountains of gold and silver, stable as a mountain. He thought this life, he'd never share hardship with her, so he'd always share the good times. Eat her food, use her money, be taken care of by her. It didn't seem so bad. He raised his eyes to look at her. Under the candlelight, his face was bright, with a lingering smile. Chen Yinyu took a gentle breath, carefully hiding that relief. Seeing her smile like this was enough. This life is fine just as it is.